Alright, whoa, what's good, man? My name is FlemLo Raps. Want to welcome y'all back to another episode of This Week in QB1. This is the weekly series where I update you guys on every single player from the Go 90 / Netflix series QB1 Beyond the Light. In these videos, we cover every player from seasons 1 and season 2. And before we jump in, I want to thank y'all so much for the love on last week's video. 7,000 likes. It is much appreciated. Let's see if we can duplicate or at least get close to that this week. So click the thumbs up button if y'all enjoyed this video. If you happen to be brand new here, every single week I cover Last Chance U, I cover QB1. What happened to videos, story videos, man, look around the channel. If you like what you see, consider subscribing and enabling your notifications by clicking that little bell. Last thing before we jump in, I just want to let y'all know that this week at the end of the video, I'm gonna be trying something new where I highlight a few of you guys' comments from the last episode. So if you watched and commented on the last episode, make sure you're sticking around to the end to see if your comment made it. Without further ado, y'all know what time it is. This week in QB1, Q the Wayne. Let's start off in Georgia since we have two guys there and they're both getting playing time. First off, Jake Fromm has been crazy efficient. Dude went 15 of 18 passing for just under 200 yards and a touchdown in last week's blowout victory versus SEC opponent South Carolina. Now this game started out relatively close, but Georgia exploded in the third quarter and they just kept it moving from there. Jake has continued to receive praise from his teammates and coaches for knowing everything that's going on the field and being smart, poised, and in complete control of the offense. Justin Fields only threw one pass in this game after playing much more in game 1. But Georgia has Mid-Tennessee State this week, and Kirby Smart has already pretty much alluded to the fact that Justin will have an expanded role this week, seeing as how they're playing a lesser opponent. This is a very interesting situation since Justin Fields is an extremely talented quarterback and maybe technically more talented than Jake Fromm. But of course, Jake is a talented QB himself and he just has such a firm grasp on the offense and really the team as a whole as a leader that at this point, he pretty much has his spot on lock. Not to mention, Georgia is really good and Jake's experience is gonna go a very long way in their national championship push. Tate Martell had a huge day versus Rutgers last week, and football fans can be unbelievably fickle, as everyone said after last week's one game, man, Tate Martell was pretty much trash. One writer said last week, Tate Martell couldn't pass his way out of a wet paper bag, only to turn around this week and have to issue an apology as Tate went 10 for 10 passing for 121 yards and a touchdown. Again, that's 10 for 10 passing, completed 100% of his passes for 121 yards and a touchdown. Then he added another 95 yards on the ground, which included a 47-yard scramble for a touchdown. And while Ohio State has some really routine and relatively easy throws built into their offense, I saw Tate make a couple that were some really big boy throws, including one where he was rolling out to his left and throwing to a guy who was running a out-breaking route with relatively close coverage. Tate threw it on the run with perfect precision, and despite the narrative, he does have the ability to throw the football. It's important to note right here that yes, we know Dwayne Haskins is no joke. That dude is unbelievably talented. He's very good. And he had a great game as well. He was damn near 100% passing himself as he threw 23 passes and completed 20 of them. So that is very important to note. So while Tate had a great day, Haskins is on a completely different level. So just like I said last week, after Tate Martell didn't look good, that was only one game and he's not playing the full game. So you can't really judge off of that. Same thing with this week. We can't really judge off of what we saw in this one particular game, and of course he does look erratic at times. I don't see Tate ever starting over Haskins, so let's keep checking this out and see if there's going to be any movement going forward. Sam Hartman had another solid day versus Towson, going 17 of 27 for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, he got his turnover numbers down, but still threw 1 interception. He also ran for 64 yards and a touchdown on the ground, and I don't want to minimize his efforts so far this season, but I really can't wait to see what he does versus some better competition. Now, Wake Forest has conference opponent Boston College tomorrow, and then I believe next week he's got to play against Notre Dame, and I cannot wait to see how he looks in that game. Now, I definitely don't expect Wake Forest to win that game, but I just want to see how Sam Hartman looks versus that type of pressure and that caliber of team. But regardless, he's looking really good to this point in his true freshman season. Now, let's talk about his backup, Tavon Bowers. Sam once again threw every single Wake Forest pass in that game, and Tavon did hit the field, but it was only to hand the ball off. He didn't get any pass attempts. He didn't even get any run attempts, okay? So while I'm pulling for Tavon, I do not see him surpassing Sam Hartman. I mean, he came in there, took the job, and is running with it, you know what I mean? Lastly, we got Real Mitchell. And just like last week, we still don't have a ton from Real, as the true freshman hasn't hit the field yet. It's important to keep in mind that in this series it's all quarterbacks and there's only one starter, and that's why we end up mentioning the fact that each of these players could transfer, you know, almost at any point. But Real's situation honestly looks pretty promising, as the quarterbacks in front of him are upperclassmen. Also, one of Iowa State quarterbacks went down recently versus Iowa, which means that there's a really good chance that Real will be named the backup for this week's game. If he's named the backup, obviously he's one step closer to getting on the field as a true freshman. Now, Iowa State's offensive line isn't very good, but we've seen in the past where a mobile quarterback can mitigate the struggles of a bad offensive line. Maybe Iowa State's coaches have that same thought. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens. Last week, Jay Knowledge said, "Jake Fromm is my favorite QB1 cast member. Humble, true leader, and hard worker." I definitely agree with you on those characteristics. Those are all found in Jake Fromm. But I also thought Tavon Bowers was pretty humble and a good leader as well. But Jake is the better quarterback. He goes to the better school, and I think that's elevated his status a good bit. Paul Davidson said, "Tate Martell has a very punchable face." First off, this is hilarious, and I know I'm in a minority here, but I love Tate Martell. Arrogance doesn't bother me when you're good, especially since I don't know you and I ain't got to deal with you on a regular basis. But from an athlete perspective, most of my favorite athletes are extremely confident and almost over the top confident, where it borders or crosses over the line of arrogance. In my opinion, these guys are just much more entertaining to watch, as the stakes, even in a small game, are always high. That's why I've watched every Floyd Mayweather fight since Ricky Hatton, because even if he was fighting a guy where there's a 99.9% chance that he's gonna win, the stakes are so high because he's so arrogant and so many people want to see him lose. I'm not one of those people, by the way, but it just adds an extra layer of excitement for me personally. Thomas Owens, good information. I don't know why these youngsters go to schools where they may have to sit for 3 years. I understand being a competitor, but at the end of the day, you want to get better at your craft and play. And a player that's been there 1 year ahead of you can only teach you so much, because he's pretty much still learning himself. This is an interesting comment because of just the culture of college football. As a quarterback especially, you can be replaced at any time, and people will tell you that's just the way it is, or that's part of the course, or that's how it goes, or you know, whatever like that. But those same people will say if you transfer or you decide to go to another school that you quit, or you know, they try to throw these negative labels on you. And Thomas here is talking about Jake Fromm, Justin Fields, right? And it is just a very interesting situation. As I talked about it in this video, man. Jake Fromm has such a firm grasp on that offense. It's almost like if you're Justin Fields, your only opportunity will be if he ends up getting injured, you know? And of course, none of us want that to happen. I know it happened to Jacob Eason, the guy who was in front of Jake Fromm, but no decent person wants to see that happen. So that's an interesting comment, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that in the comment section. If it were you, would you go to a school where you'd have to likely sit for 2 to 3 years versus going somewhere where you can start immediately, assuming you could go to a Power 5 school still and start from day one? Anyway, that's gonna do it for today's video, man. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget, click the thumbs up button, subscribe if you're brand new. I'm gonna holler at you next time. My name is FlemLo Raps. One.